During this session, we're asking the question, what is apologetics good for? Outside of conservative evangelicalism, apologetics as a discipline has fallen out of favor. Christian apologetics is no longer a part of the curriculum of many undergraduate and seminary programs. In fact, the last time that you could take a class on apologetics at Princeton Theological Seminary, FDR was president of the United States. So why has Christian apologetics fallen out of favor in the larger Christian world? There are probably a lot of reasons for this, but I'm going to give you three. The first is a philosophical reason, what we might call the postmodern critique. This critique is that apologetics is part of the modern project, a way of knowing that is fixated on certainty and authority, and apologetics fails with that project. In other words, if all knowledge is perspectival and contextual and therefore subjective, then is certain knowledge really possible? And if not, then what is the point of apologetics? A popular version of this objection is to simply say you can't really prove anything, especially something as subjective as God. Thus, the apologetic project is disqualified along with the modern paradigm of knowledge. Second, a theological reason. We might call this the bardian critique. See, a theological version of the rejection of modernity came famously in the theology of Karl Barth. Barth rejected the sort of liberal approach developed by Schleiermacher and his followers. In seeking to connect with and make Christian faith palatable to his friends, whom he called the cultured despisers of religion, Schleiermacher, Barth believed, had in fact revised Christian orthodoxy. So Barth rejected any point of contact or common ground apart from God's revelation in Jesus Christ. The essence of the Bardian critique is that Christian apologetics betrays the Christian faith because it tries to begin with neutral common principles and thus grounds Christianity in something other than God's revelation. Many have found this Bardian critique, or something like it, fatal to Christian apologetics. Other thinkers who have built on Bardian foundations, like Stanley Hauerwas, reject even the use of common vocabulary between the church and the world because all of our terms only have meaning from within the Christian narrative. In other words, Christian faith can really only be understood from the inside, from a position of a person who has received the revelation of God. And so it is impossible to create some sort of common language to make Christian faith intelligible to somebody on the outside. What that person needs is not reasons, but revelation. Third, sociological reasons. We might call this the critique from the perspective of critical theory. One of the most salient insights of the postmodern turn is that philosophy is not just about truth or even about meaning, but also about power. There is this growing sense that apologetics is really just a, quote, white and Western project. The accusation is that apologetics has been fixated on defending Christendom, which are the power structures of Christian culture, rather than Christian faith. It's been co-opted by a colonial project so that we're defending Christian civilization rather than Christian faith. Now, if you resonate with any of these critiques, I hope it won't stop you from taking this class. In fact, I hope that it will encourage you to dive deeper. I resonate with many of these critiques, and I will enjoy revisiting them as we move forward in this course. In the meantime, we can all agree that Christian apologetics has often been practiced in ways that are far from Christ-like. Condescending, culturally insensitive, belligerent, arrogant, fixated on winning arguments. We could go on. But the reality is that even if we reject the sort of grand apologetic systems targeted by these three critiques, our readiness to give some sort of an answer and to contend for the faith is a basic expectation of Scripture. So we can reject apologetics as a magisterial project while retaining apologetics as a ministerial necessity. In my book, I've called this difference the difference between uppercase apologetics, apologetics with a capital A, where evidence demands a verdict, and lowercase apologetics. Now, as I said, I am interested in apologetics because I am interested in the intersection of theology and culture. And at its best, apologetics can be a form of Christian translation, a way of learning to engage our cultural situation in ways that lead to more beauty and justice and truth, to greater resonance with the gospel. And that's what I'll be arguing, is that the best kind of apologetics is a kind of creative improvisation on gospel themes. Now, one last historical note before we finish. Many of you are familiar with the Lausanne Congress on World Evangelization. The Third Congress met in Cape Town, South Africa, in October of 2010. It brought together over 4,000 evangelical leaders from 198 countries. Now, included in their Cape Town commitment was a commitment to bear witness, quote, to the truth of Christ in a pluralistic and globalized world. Now, here is what a global meeting of church leaders had to say about apologetics in the Cape Town commitment. We long to see greater commitment to the hard work of robust apologetics. This must be at two levels. First, we need to identify, equip, and pray for those who can engage at the highest intellectual and public level in arguing for and defending biblical truth in the public arena. Second, we urge church leaders and pastors to equip all believers with the courage and the tools to relate the truth with prophetic relevance to everyday public conversation, and so to engage every aspect of the culture we live in. Now, while many of us think of the first point as what apologetics is, what I am interested is primarily in the second point, equipping ordinary people with courage and the tools to relate the truth, and I would add, the goodness and beauty of faith with prophetic relevance to everyday public conversation to engage every aspect of the culture that we live in. That's where this course is ultimately leading us. Thanks for joining me.